Ain't no stopping us now. I love this geezer who is in the chair. And the other week after Moondance, it was Sunday morning, I was up and I was looking down my Instagram timeline, and this bloke is always celebrating other artists, DJs, MCs who he loves, who have inspired him. And it's always like, I want to give this person their flowers. And I looked, and it was about 8:30 on a Sunday morning, wasn't it? 8:30 on a Sunday morning. I voice noted him all groggy saying, Steve, all you ever do is give people their flowers, but I want to give you your flowers because you are a Don. And one of the first people I was ever on a flyer with in 1991 was Phantasy. One of the first named DJs who I warmed up for was DJ Phantasy. One of the first people I heard use a crossfader with such precision. This is before he made music. One of the first names I saw on energy flyers, and I thought, wow, that is cool, was DJ Phantasy. And I literally wanted you to come in so I could say, I'm giving you your flowers, and I want to do a show that's all about you, because you've been there since like day dot, dude.
It's weird because last night, well, first of all, thank you for having me down. I really appreciate it. I have been following the show. I've caught, you know, the Vibes one was the last one I watched. That was wicked because I love Shane. He's another old school Don. But what it was yesterday, it was weird because I went to see Jimmy Carr at the O2, and I was driving back with my missus and one of my daughters, and I was driving past Labyrinth, and because obviously I'm coming here the next day, and I was like, yeah, I'm going on a podcast with Billy Bunter, and I said, and I remember there used to be a club here, and I think it's a train station now.
It's a train station and library.
Yeah, right. And I said, that building there used to be the sickest raves, and it was Phil and Joe, Phil Hickin, Desire, and Joe, I can't remember Joe's surname, but
yeah, Joe Wiz Labyrinth.
Yeah, Labyrinth. So they did 2000 AD Presents Labyrinth, and that was the first time I remember seeing you.
I was 15.
Yeah, I remember, because I was thinking, how was he allowed in the club? I think I was about 17.
Yeah, because
I was 18.
18, you was young as well.
Yeah, I was young. Yeah, I was young. And I do remember you from down there because there was a vibe, and I was explaining to my daughter, and the thing is the sat nav was taking us another way, and I was like, no, babes, we got to go along Holloway Road because I've got to tell you the history of this whole area from Dalston up, and it was just crazy, like, you know, reliving it. And it's good because I was kind of training my brain again for today, you know, going back into those amazing days. But who would have thought the things that we did in the late 80s, early 90s, we'd still be here 35, 36, 37 years later.
It's incredible, Steve.
Absolutely.
It is like, I could never, ever imagine. And something like that I always think about with you is that Energy video from 89 in Ipswich. You're in the dance floor.
Yes.
There's videos of you in the dance floor.
Yeah.
There's videos of Seduction behind the decks, watching Evil Eddie, Mickey Finney's dancing, Chalky White.
It's mad. Someone actually showed me that video, right? And like they were like, "Is this you?" And I looked, and I was like, "Oh my god, it is!" And like,
it's a young Fantasy.
You see how the picture quality of that video.
Yeah,
the quality wasn't that good back then, so it was like really weird looking at this high quality, like almost HD video. Yeah, that was mad. It was actually a raver that sent me that and was like, "Is this you?" And I just thought, wow, that was crazy. But yeah, I remember I was in the crowd and that, and because you know, for us. I thank God every day. I'm so blessed that, that we've had this amazing career and we're still here doing what we do. But, you know, when we first started, the reason I started DJing is I just wanted to be involved. Do you know what I mean? Because when I do something, I like to get fully involved. And I remember the way I wanted to get into the scene was, I remember going to Slough warehouse, Slough in Slough in 1988, and there was this guy called Stuart. He used to have a bowler hat, and that was his little logo. But he used to walk around with a bowler hat. And my thing was, I don't want to stand in this queue. The queue was so long to get in there. So how can I not get in the queue? So I said to him on the way out, "Listen, Stuart, can I grab a load of flyers? And I'm going to Land of Oz on Monday, and I'll flyer for you." He went, "Okay, cool." So I did the flyers. I did the flyers for him, and then the next weeks after, when I'd go with all my pals, he'd see me in the queue and he'd be like, Steve, who are you with? And I'd be like, oh, there's 6 of us. And he'd be like, come on. Now, we wouldn't get in for free. We still pay our 20 quid, but do you know how big we felt walking to the
course, yeah.
We felt like so special. And it was like, I didn't mind. I paid my way. I paid my 20 quid. All my mates paid their 20 quids in. We were in, no queue. So like, it was like, yeah, you're part of involvement. And then weirdly enough, from me handing out flyers for Stuart, I was out at Land of Oz and I met Jarvis from biology. And Jarvis went to me, have you got any VIP? He was across from me and we were handing flyers, and he's doing biology. I'm doing this rave. I can't remember. It's terrible. I can't remember the name of the rave. I'm so sorry, Stuart. But it was, I know it was at the Slough Centre. Maybe someone in the comments can tell us what it was. But there, like, he said to me, Jarvis said to me, have you got any VIPs? And I didn't know what VIPs was. I was like, yeah. I goes, what's a VIP? And he went, a VIP. And I went, no. But have you got any VIPs for that? And he went, yeah, come and see me tomorrow at Vinyl Zone on Kings Road. Now, my cousins, I hung around in Fulham anyway, because Vinyl Zone was in Kings Road, Fulham. And I hung around in Fulham because anyone that know I'm Chelsea. There's my little Chelsea rose. But my, you know, and the thing is so all my cousins grew up around there, and you know, I was always in the area, and that was my record shop. And I went in there, I met Jarvis, and he gave me this. He said, "Bring me a photo." So I brought a photo, and he handed me this pass. He laminated for me a biology VIP pass, and like it was kind of like a staff pass in a way. And I was like, "Wow, this is amazing." And I said to him, "Look, if you've got any flyers, I'm out. I was out every night of the week, you know, back in them days. We were going out, whatever was on. If there was something on, you'd just go. Shum was on or Rage or whatever. And I just was grabbing flyers. So I just wanted to be involved. Do you know what I mean? I just wanted to be involved in the scene. And that involvement kind of led to like getting more involved. How can I get more involved? Okay, so like, and I actually said to Jarvis, I'm starting to DJ. Can I get a little set? And he was like, yeah, cool. So next thing you know, I was doing warm-ups at biology, which was
what a start.
Bro, biology. That's like going to play for like Man United of its time. Do you know what I mean? Like a big club. And so I remember, don't get me wrong, I was playing warm-ups and there was no one there. Like, but it was just getting that feel. But you know, it was just so amazing to just be part of something that I wasn't even thinking about any further than the next weekend.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's what I always say. There was no vision other than the next weekend.
Exactly. And what I was trying to do when I was doing a bit of a reminiscence around like Dalston, where Labyrinth and 2000 AD was, and going up to Highbury and then along the Colloway Road, talking about Kiss FM and the Rocket Club, and you know yourself, the record shop that was there, where they done that documentary.
Yeah, when it was Lucky Spin.
That was it, Lucky Spin. They filmed a documentary in there, which weirdly enough popped up on my timeline the other day. But the thing is like when you think about it, like there's such a rich history in like not just in London but in the UK for rave culture, and whether it's like rave, hardcore as you know it, because I want to discuss this later. There is a bit of a misunderstanding, I believe, between rave, hardcore and hardcore that say you and Darren Styles.
1,000,000%. There's been so many different like it's the same can be said for jungle. There's been so many terminologies and styles, which we'll get onto later.
They all fall under the umbrella, even if it's, you know, but the thing is with the hardcore, it got a bit confusing. But you know, the thing is, you know, just wanting to be part of this was what drove me. And as I said earlier, I'm the type of person, when I get into something, I don't just do it half-assed. I get in, I go in, and you know, and you know, just to be able to be like a part of this journey, like from where it is to where we are now, it's just, you know, it's been.
Well, you've watched it from like its inception to actually being one of the biggest drum and bass acts in the world. On the biggest stages. Could you imagine artists now being excited about standing outside clubs, flying in the rain? You can't even get to where they need to get to.
You can't even get them to post up the events they're playing at. And this is a bit of a gripe I have when I put my promoter hat on, because where I am now,
you have many hats.
I have many hats, and then what it is, I've got my you know, what I do is I try to keep my business and my home life separate. So when I go home, cut off.
Yeah.
You know, and what it is it's very easy to let that bleed over. Do you know what I mean? But I try to keep them all separate. So you don't see me posting pictures of my family up online. Anything on my socials is about
your music,
my business and the music and the events I'm playing at. And I always remember Skipper, God rest his soul, you know, I always remember him saying, when there was this whole thing about artists not wanting to promote events because it wasn't cool or it was messing with the algorithm. Skipper said, no, you know what, bro, we'll be different. We'll promote everything. Everything we're on, we'll let our fans know and our supporters know that we're there so they come and see us. And, you know, the proof was in the pudding. It worked because, you know, as you know, SASAS went on to do kick down doors that, let's be honest, the industry didn't want SASAS. They didn't want that group. They didn't want MCs being at the forefront because it was all very clean and, you know, and manageable. And then suddenly all these don't get me wrong, we're not rowdy, but it come across as like a wall of energy and quite we're all on stage and the energy. Don't forget, when we're on stage creating that energy, that transfers to the crowd. The crowd give us the energy back, mate. You've just got this boom going off. And as on our social, it actually says like a wall of energy. Do you know what I mean? So the thing is, you know, the industry, one thing I always say to up and coming artists, they're like, oh, what can I do? What can I do? And I say, listen, if you get the followers of drum and bass, jungle, rave, hardcore, whatever you're into, if you get them to support you and buy into you, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, because what will happen is the promoters will have to book you. Yeah, it's as simple as that.
For me, I've got a saying at the moment: you are your own algorithm. Everyone blames the algorithm for them not getting out as much, or everyone, oh, you've got to be in the algorithm. No, you haven't. Your authenticity, who you are, 100%. Being true to yourself is the secret to cracking the code of the algorithm. It's no different to you in '88 going out flying 100%. And finding your place. It's the same thing now. But yeah, I remember, I don't know if you recall, like I'd see videos of you as SASAS and text you and go, I can't believe what I'm seeing, what you guys are doing. Like, just congratulating you.
No, of course, but you know, you've always been like, what I love about you, you know, is I call you you probably don't even know this, but I call you a chameleon, right? And what I mean by that is, like, you have this ability to be able to, I could put you in front of a drum and bass crowd, you'll go and play a drum and bass set and smash the arse out of it. Then I could put you in front of a rave, old school rave crowd, you'll go and smash it. I could put you in front of a soul crowd and you'll go and smash it, because you're a chameleon. You can wear a hat for the different things.
It's learned experience.
100%.
Like with you, you can go anywhere, and it's learned experience because we've lived and breathed. And it goes back to the flying thing. We've both lived and breathed flying because we want to be part of the movement.
Like, even like, it's so mad. Like, I'm even like going back to the flyering days. Those flyering days, by me turning up to a rave with flyers, suddenly I was like getting in for free. So I'm saving like a 10 or 20 quid on the door. And like, what it is I'm like, can I leave my flyers? I got to know all the promoters, all the club owners. And then, so what it is when I actually started wanting to DJ more seriously, because I was doing this at home, like, you know, I remember, you know, what it is, I had already had a little foundation of knowing people. But just going back, I remember, and I was talking about this last night with my daughter and my missus, we drove past Camden Palace, which is Coco now, but it's my all-time favorite venue, like literally. And I went in there it was my birthday. I remember it was 1988, because they stopped me going in and they went, you old enough? And I pulled out my provisional driving license, which had my date of birth. And the guy went, oh, okay. I had just turned 18. So he went, cool. So I went in, and I remember that night, I just remember the music never stopped all night. And I said to one of my mates on the way out, which is quite funny, I said to my mate Andy and Donald on the way out, I went, mate, the music never stopped all night. And they went, it's called mixing, you dickhead, or something like that. Yeah. And I was saying to my daughter last night, how weird is it that I didn't understand the concept of mixing, and I ended up going into a career as being a DJ. So I'm not that guy. You know, I know so many people that are like, yeah, I've been DJing since I was 12 years old, 10. I wasn't that guy. I was going to be a carpenter. Yeah, I trained to be a carpenter. I actually got City and Guilds in that, which my family take the piss out of, because my carpentry skills are not the best, but you know, I have a trade behind me. Do you know what I mean? So, and you know, it's amazing to sort of remember. I came out of that club as an 18-year-old, just turned 18-year-old, starry-eyed guy, and I didn't even know the concept of mixing. And then I remember with me and my cousin Eamon, like who's still like my best mate. I will go football with him all the time. I love him. He's like my closest family member. He I remember saying to him like, I want to get some decks. So we went down to like a second-hand shop and we bought 2 turntables, not understanding that you need
pitch.
Yeah.
That's what I did
yeah.
as well. Yeah.
So we had the belt drive ones, right? So anyway, we got these 2 decks and I'm like, so I went to Vinyl Zone, bought a load of records. The guy there must have loved it when I walked through because he just piled me with a stack of crap. Like, honestly, yeah. So I bought everything.
At least you're honest.
Yeah, I was like, I love it. Because I couldn't believe you could actually buy this music, you know. And so basically I went into, we got the decks and I'm like playing the tune. I'm like, how do I get that tune to work? What's going on? And we couldn't work it out. Oh, we need a mixer. We went down to Tandy and bought a £30 mixer. So you know, you see I go Tandy. Yeah. So we bought a £30 mixer, put the mixer, because there weren't enough room on the table, put it in front, and then we was like playing the tune. And I was like, I don't understand what's going on. It's like, it's all over the place. And I didn't understand why. Anyway, that's when I worked out you need pitch. But so what we were doing is we were doing it with the finger because we didn't have enough money on us to go and buy more decks. You know what I mean? Anyway, we decided to go to Ibiza in '88 and we went over there. And it's all right to talk about if we've took stuff.
Of course,
yeah, okay, cool. Because so I like so
it
what it
makes
is
the picture beautiful.
Yeah, so what it is we took these tab pills or whatever. We called them skag burgers because they were not good, and we just felt like pretty rough. Anyway, so I've walked into this club called Play 2 in San Antonio, and I walked into the guy and I went, I goes, mate, I'm a top London DJ. I goes, can I play in your club? And he was like, yes, no problems. Come back at 5 a.m. And I was like, sweet. And I went, there's a problem. He said, what? He goes, I said, I don't have any records with me. And he said, no worries. And he pointed at this wall and every record you could think of was on the wall. So I said, do you mind if I go and have a look? And he said, go and help yourself. So I went and I pulled all the records. You remember back in the day, you used to know the records by the sleeve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the label. Yeah. I didn't know what, I just said, I've got that. I've got that. Do you know what I mean? So I had, I pulled out a stack of tunes like this and then I went in, I turned up at 5 a.m, like coming down off of this. And I remember my cousin, his eyes were like saucers. And he was looking through the thing. And I remember I touched the 1200s, the silver ones. And I remember like, oh my God, it was like from my crappy belt drives to these, I was like, this was the moment. This is what I want to do. Yeah. So anyway, I remember Sunrise was on the first time Carl Cox had played on 3 decks. I think it might be. Yeah, it was 3 decks. And I remember we were supposed to be in Ibiza till like the Wednesday after. And I was like, no, I'm not missing Sunrise. So I went to the airport and because you could do this back in the day, I went to the airport and I started telling them that I got to get home. I've got an emergency and, you know, I need to change my ticket. And they just put you on the next flight. There was didn't charge you. Back in them days, you could do it. So anyway, I phoned this girl and I was like, pick me up at King's Cross. So she picked me up at King's Cross, drove me out to Oxfordshire to this rave. None of my mates knew I was coming. She bought me the ticket. I don't know if I paid her back actually, but anyway, we went to the rave and it was just like amazing. Sunrise, like one of the best raves ever. And so that I knew this was for me.
I've got some things I want to unpack. My inquisitive mind. You've mentioned Land of Oz.
Yeah.
You've mentioned Ibiza.
Yeah.
You've mentioned Sunrise.
Yeah.
You have literally mentioned a handful of things that sum up the most earliest rave moments that everyone speaks about in '88. So I want you to describe Land of Oz, the DJs and people you heard. I want you to describe your Ibiza experience because everyone talks about this Balearic Ibiza experience, but then you're talking about Sunrise and the tell me, DJs, the vibe, all of the different aspects of all of those things.
I think the one thing that is the most important thing, more important than the DJs, more important than the music, more important than anything, was the culture and the people. And the one thing, like, because in the late 80s, there was like there was still a bit of tension on the street, like, you know, like different, you know, there was just tension on the street for one reason or another. Yeah. And what it is I felt going into a rave, like it didn't matter where you were from, what background you were from, you were one. And that was the main thing that drew me to it, is that you could be white, black, Chinese, Asian, you could be from north, south, east, west. It didn't matter. It was just one, you were one, unity with each other. And that was the thing that drew me in the most. Don't get me wrong, I loved the music. And it was the music and the drugs that kind of pulled it all together, I believe. I remember, just a quick side note, I remember getting arrested once it was in Fulham. I was in Fulham police station, and this policeman came into the cell. See, it was something stupid. I can't even remember what it was. It was really stupid. And the policeman come into me in the cell, and he was like, right, we're going to let you out in 20 minutes or whatever. You just got to get a caution or something, whatever. And I said to him, can I ask you a question? And he went, yeah. And I went, have you noticed that around the area on a Saturday night there's less trouble? And he went, yeah. And I went, okay. And he went, why is that? And I was like, well, that's ecstasy. And he's like, what? And the policeman didn't know what I was talking about. And I thought, now thinking about it, what was I doing talking to a policeman about drugs? But like the thing is like it when the ecstasy was like such a massive thing, it really changed. Like it stopped. I went into the Fantastic Ibiza. So you'll know Paul Ibiza and Phil used to run the Fantastic Ibiza in King's Cross. I remember going in there once, right? And I was with all my Chelsea lot, right? So we're all part of Chelsea's like firm. And then you've got Tottenham over there, Arsenal over there, West Ham over there, and they're all in the play. And I remember walking around the rave and I was like, oh shit, double back. And then go the other, oh shit, double back. Next thing you know, you just see everyone hugging each other and all raving together. And I just thought, wow. And that's why I think in some of those films, like I think Essex Boys might have been one, they nailed it, because there's a scene, I think Slipmat actually DJs in the scene of the film. And what I noticed was they actually, obviously it was based around their lifestyle, but the West Ham connection or whatever, but there was people from different firms in there, and it was all, when you were in the rave and there was all loved up. Do you understand what I mean? And I think that was a special thing about the culture. Obviously the music brought it all together, the drugs brought it all together, but I just remember it just drew me in. Like it was just special. And you know, you'd go, you know, I think about Sunrise. I just remember we was in a field, like, and I remember Carl, because Carl Cox ended up becoming one of my closest friends. He was like kind of managing me for a few years, and you know, and like he'd be coming round. I remember him coming round. My mum used to treat him like one of her kids. She'd be like, hey Carl, in our Irish, hey Carl, do you want some breakfast? And he'd be like, yeah, go on then, Maureen. And you know, she'd be cooking him up food, he'd be drinking, and like I've got a photograph of him. My mum used to have a coin box, like, because I would always be on the phone, so she didn't want me you know, running up her phone bill. And Carl Cox used to turn up to my house, right, on my mum's house, with a stack of 50p's. And he'd be plugging it. My mum would love it, innit? Because my mum would open the box when he'd gone, take the money and, you know, like whatever, deal with the bill when it comes. Do you know what I mean? But the thing is, he'd be plugging it. He'd be on business calls, but we just let him get on with it. I'd be doing whatever. He'd be sitting there on the court eating food like my mum had cooked for him. So if you think about it, I'm standing in a rave and I'm looking at Carl Cox like this 3-deck wizard, and then like, you know, 6 months later, a year later, he's sitting in my house. And, you know, when we did the Hitman and Her, do you remember?
Yeah, I remember.
Hitman and Her, yeah. So that, it's funny because the Hitman and Her, when me and my mates used to go out, it'd be like me, Eamon, Donald, Andy, there'd be like Phil, there'd be a load of us go out, and we would all go back to, say, Dave owned a flat above a shop that his mum owned the shop, and we used to go back there and we'd all be like sitting there smoking, you know, I don't drink, but they'd all be drinking. And we'd watch the Hitman and Her would come on, and we'd be laughing, like watching the Hitman and Her. And then like a year later or whatever, a year and a half later, I'm on the Hitman and Her, which was quite an institutional show for like of its time. There wasn't really anything like that.
It really was. And your moment on that is seminal. This is a seminal moment in hardcore rave history.
It's crazy. And you know what I remember about that? And I always think, you know, in life, you'll understand this. Like we have moments in this business and in life, and that was a moment. And what it is, I was told before we were going to film, they're going to tell you what they want to talk about. So what happened is Pete Waterman, who is an absolute gentleman, I've got to tell you, he said to me, I was like, all right, Pete. And I said, what are you going to talk about? He went, we'll just make it up. And he went, boom, next thing the lights come on. So I'm like a little bit like a rabbit in headlights. And then obviously the interview went on. And what he did was at the end, he turned around. When he asked me what song I knew, he proper caught me off guard. Like the only thing I think of was Nebula 2, Cod Rider. And then I said, I'm my own. And he went, I'll let you into the secret. He's a bit of a producer. And like, I'm not joking you. The next day, my phone was going mental. Like my phone constant. Like, but in my young, naive self, I just thought everyone was just being nice. Do you know what I mean? But what it is now my business brain will tell me, oh, they see that I've been on TV on a big TV show, and they're obviously wanting to like kind of, right, what can we do? How can we utilize that to benefit themselves? Which is cool because that's promoting game. If you have a big record, I'm going to book you, and that's it. But at the time, I was like, oh my God, everyone's my friend. They all love me. But you know, that doesn't last forever, as you know. Like what happens, everybody. This is what another thing I say to young artists. Remember, we create moments in time, but they are only moments in time, and you've got to remember that, because the thing is what goes up must come down.
Of course, every time. And there's very few people that have had like been at the top for, I mean, you could count them in your hand.
Oh, do you understand?
What I always say is, if your moment if it's a truly magical moment, it will serve you well in the least unexpected moments in time. If that moment's seminal, you could take some of your liquid wax reissues that are just like wow moments for collectors who can now get records that were once 150 quid. So in an underground sense, it will reward you and people who love that stuff. And then memories of like you on Hitman and Her. Like if the moments are magic, they will last forever, but you won't know that they'll come up and reward you of like, do you remember when you did that? You could take a tune that you made in 92 or 93, you not think much of it, but your energy in that time, love making that, and you have a whole load of people now who go, Steve, please reissue it, because it's crazy expensive.
That whole thing, just jump into that quickly. Brett, big
does a
Brett
great
from
job.
Vinyl Fanatics. Brent, Brent. I was talking to someone called Brett yesterday, that's why. But Brent, he, I remember meeting him in a Tesco's in Twickenham, and he just turned his computer around. He went, right, here's all your records. Because I was a bit like, I don't know if I want to do this. And he went, here's all your records. Here's how much they're going for. I was like, what?
Yeah,
that's £190. Like, I got a load of them on my rack. And he went, oh, you should sell them. So anyway, I thought, all right, I'll do it. So I thought I set up Bandcamp. I contacted Bandcamp and I said, look, can I have DJ Phantasy? And they said, yeah. They said, we'll release it now, but you got to get it in 5 minutes, because if somebody else gets it, we can't get it back. So big up to Bandcamp for that. They sorted it out. Anyway, I remember the morning that I released all of these things with the help of Brent. And I remember I think it was during COVID times, because I remember my daughter was working from home. And my phone at 10 a.m. when I released it, my phone was just going bing, 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 bing. And I was like, huh? And I was like, bloody hell. And I could not believe the response. Do you know how humbling that was? Records that I made like 30 years ago, like just, and it was like, wow. And my daughter turned around to me, she's like, Dad, why does your phone keep going off? And I was like, babe, it's all these bloody songs that are being sold, like these old records of mine. And so it was truly humbling. And then so obviously when I spoke to Brent, we worked on this plan to re-release all my stuff. Then I had loads of stuff that I'd made that I never released, so we dropped that. And then, you know, thank God they've gone really well, you know.
You know, that what you did was, which we'll get onto a bit later, because I still want to stay late.
Yeah.
But I've got some thoughts about your 92, 93 stuff, which I've actually discussed with you about 15 years ago, my thoughts on this stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll get onto that, because your body of work in that period is not to be underestimated.
Yeah.
For its influence and its moment in time, which we are going to get onto, because I have admiration for what you did, and I know in points of time you might not have seen it like that, because you're always moving on so quickly, and you're a fast moving person.
Yeah, funny, like during that time, like, you know, you don't really realize, like I said, you know, there are moments in time you don't really realize. But I think one time, what I did, like, just quickly going back to the 88 thing, right? Remember when I said I touched the decks in Play 2, this club, right? So I'm like, I want decks, right? So then I got back to England. This girl picked me up. She took me to Sunrise. And what we did was we went through, like, we had a wicked rave. I found my mates in the rave. They're like, what are you doing here? It was all like, you know, yeah, big excitement, amazing event. And anyway, on the Monday, I called my dad and I was like, Dad, like, should you do me a favour? And he's like, what? And I said, look, I need to get some decks. And I said, just can lend me £1,000, please. Just lend me £1,000 so I can get it. Obviously, my dad was like, you know, no, I'm not lending you £1,000, you know, kicking up. He did. Thank God he did. So I got the £1,000. I went down and I bought 2 1200s, and I still own them 1200s now. I still got them. Yeah, these are amazing. I will never sell them. They're like ornaments. I don't touch them. They're there, and they're in the studio. They're there. If I have to check, I pulled them out because Brent was like, "Can you check the vinyl?" I'm like, "Bloody hell!" So I had to go and buy wires and had to plug it into my mixing desks are all gone now, so it's all computer based. Anyway, so I bought the decks and then I started working on actually learning how to mix and put music together, and you know, so that was like a special time to be able to do that, but. What it is as well is because of me handing out flyers, that led to me basically selling tickets for raves. So what happened was I would contact the promoters and I'm like, look, you don't have anyone in Ealing. I used to sell tickets from Ealing, yeah? And you don't have anyone from Ealing selling tickets. Do you want me to sell it? Because they had north, west and south. Sorry, north, east and south, well covered, west not covered. So they said, yeah. So Steve Ealing, if you look on some of the flyers, Steve Ealing. I want to talk to you about the mobile phone as well, because Phil from Desire, there's a story there from 88 about that phone, so remind me about that. So anyway, so I was selling these tickets for raves, and the tickets were going so mad, like selling so well, so I was earning about £5 a ticket, and if you sell like, I don't know, 100 tickets, like, it's a bit of dough, you know what I mean? Yeah. So what happened was like I done a deal with my mum that, because it was at my mum's house, yeah. I done a deal with my mum that, Mum, if you help me sell these tickets, because I'm not going to be in all the time, I'm going to be out. If you help me sell these tickets, I'll cut you in on it. My mum was always up for a deal, man. My mum.
That's where you get it from.
100%.
I'm getting the picture now.
My mum was a hustler, man. Like, you know, she was a massive supporter of me, which I'll get into how I went full time with this. But yeah, so anyway, I remember coming home like after a weekend and she's like, right, and she'd just have a pile of money and she'd be like, right, I've sold all them tickets. And I'm like, what, all of them? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, all the money's here. And she's went, yeah. She goes, give me my bit. So I'd cut her a bit. She'd be happy. I'd take my bit, phone the promoter. I'm like, look, sold all those tickets. Give me more. Go meet them, give them their money, get more tickets. Anyway, so this was you know, the structure that we had, you know what I mean? Me and my mum were both selling the tickets. So it'd be funny, I'd be in a rave and people coming up to me going, I met your mum. Now, you know, that could be, what do you mean you met my mum? But I knew they actually knew. So we were had to get their tickets. Yeah. So what it is, and my mum was a proper character. She'd probably like, yeah, come in for a drink and that type of thing. You know what I mean? Oh, come in and have a drink and, like, you know, become friends with them, because remember, if you become friends with people, they'll come back and buy off you again, right? So anyway, so we were doing a roaring business on that. So what I did is I used that selling tickets. So remember, I went from flyers to getting in for free. That's all I wanted. No, sorry, just getting a guest list jump. I didn't want to get in free. I was happy to pay. Then suddenly you get a couple of freebies and you're like, oh, actually I'm getting free here. Then you're selling tickets. So then, because I was learning to DJ, and this is all in 88, yeah, I was like thinking, do you know what? I need to utilize this to get myself onto these gigs. Do you understand what I mean? And I remember I never had a DJ name. I was just Steve. Do you know what I mean? And because I never thought of a DJ. That wasn't even in my head. It was just, I just want to learn and be, I wanted to be involved. Like, it was, you know, it's like even going back to the football days when I used to be part of Chelsea's firm and that, even though I was younger, I just wanted to be involved. You just want to be involved. When you're going to Leeds away and you're going with 400 or 500 people, you're involved.
You just love the energy. You're young.
The vibe. It's the vibe, you know, and but the thing is so I'm involved now with this industry that is, again, I don't know, it might finish next week. I don't know. And then next thing you know, I've started doing the tickets, and which has led to knowing more promoters. Obviously, when you're coming to a promoter and giving them like $5,000 or whatever, and then you go, any chance I can get a set?
Yeah,
they're gonna go, yeah.
They're gonna go, yeah.
Because it's like, if you make a big record, you're gonna sell me a load of tickets, right? But what I'm doing is I'm actually selling you physical tickets, even though they're not there for me, they're there for the rave, but I'm bringing you money. So I don't want no money for it.
Do you know what I love about this? Now it's all about your community.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the thing is, up and coming artists, even artists of our age, it's all about your community via the internet and your radio shows. You was building your community in real time, in person.
I didn't think of it.
People could knock at your door, and if you weren't in, your mum weren't in, and the community's there, and you're selling your tickets. Like I always say, you take parallels then to now, and don't ever let me hear a new DJ moan that they got to work for it.
Well, this is what, you know, this is what I'm saying. What I said earlier, you can't even get a DJ now to post there on your rave, like, so, you know, it is like mad. But anyway, whatever, that's up to them.
So
back to 8 So what happened was, where I got my name Phantasy was
the bit you I don't even have to ask you questions because you're answering it all as you go along. This is brilliant. I love it.
So what happened is there was a rave called Phantasy on September the 30th, 1989. So as far as I'm concerned, that's the day Phantasy started. Even though I was DJing before, that's the day. Yeah. So what happened was, like that day, the guy called Dave Lambert, like absolute legend. He actually contacted me a couple of years ago going, I read your book, thanks to the mention. And I was like, oh, respect.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, because I obviously mentioned him in my book. But what happened was, me and my mate Wurzel, like, we were told, can we go to Box Hill and do the tickets? So remember, they knew that I was solid with the tickets. Yeah. So like I would, you know, I would sell the tickets. So what happened anyway, they gave me 2 security guards with 2 big Rottweilers, yeah, like they're beautiful dogs. And so what happened was, like we got to Box Park, and then people were coming in, and like I was like, you know, people were coming in the car park, and they were like, I was like, guys, you got your tickets? And they're like, at first people were like, no, and they were buying tickets. Then we done maybe about 40 tickets, and I had like, I don't know, a lot of tickets. Yeah, I had a lot of tickets, done about 40, and I looked and I went, there's more than 40 people here. So I said to the security, think about it, I'm like 18 years old, right? And I turned around to security and I went, right, what I want you to do is I want you to go at the edge of the car park and stop any car leaving, and I want you to take the lead car out and slowly go. And what we'll do is me and Wurzel and the security will check who's got their tickets. And if everyone ain't got their tickets, no one ain't going, this convoy ain't going nowhere. Remember, this is another exciting thing about being in the background, is I knew where the rave was. No one else did. And like, you know, I'd be like on the phone to my mates going, hey, don't say nothing, but it's here, you know, and like that gives you kudos. Do you know what I mean? Because like, you know, that something that people don't know. And it goes back to my football days. What it is when I was with the youngsters at Chelsea, I had connections with the older mob. So what happened was, because they would give me the meets, like, and this is where we're meeting, I tell all the youngers. So, and it'd be like me, it wouldn't be me, it'd just be me, it'd be me, like a few of us, all our little group friend would tell all the youngers. And so again, it's just transfer from football to rave for me. And what it is like, I was kind of like known at football because I knew all the older lot who would give me the information of where the meet was going to be. So I would feed it to the younger. So I'd be standing at the ground and the kids would be kind of like, where's the meet? I'd be like, oh yes, at the wherever, you know what I mean? And so you feel like, nice, yeah, I'm in the know, and now I'm letting you be. So you just feel,
you feel more mature than all the others.
I'm like 15 years old and I feel like a big man because I know where everyone's meeting. Anyway, so now we're transferring this to the raves. I know where the rave is because you have to phone the telephone line to know where the rave is, but I know where it is.
Yeah.
So I felt beautiful. I felt it was amazing feeling. So anyway, going back to this car park at Box Hill, as the cars are coming out, I'm going, you got tickets? And yeah. And then when there was people that had no tickets, I'm like, mate, you got to buy your tickets, right? This convoy ain't going nowhere until you. So everybody, and we had like 100 cars full up, so it'd be like, say, 400 or 500 people. Anyway, so it sold all these tickets, and then I just went, right, cool, everyone follow me. And I'm like, follow us. There were so many cars that traffic lights caught some of the cars, and I made the security drive around the one-way system so that everyone could catch up. So you've got like 40 cars following you around this one-way system, waiting for the other 40 odd cars do you know what I mean? And it was just madness. Anyway, we got to the rave, and then when we got to the rave, there's an infamous video out there, because I know Chalky White's on there, where the police are trying to shut the rave down.
Classic video.
Yeah, that's a classic video. It'd be great if you could insert these things.
Yeah.
But stitch the story.
Come on, I'm 50. I ain't that technically minded.
But the thing is, so what's happened is the security that night, they actually overturned the police car. So as we're driving along where to go, I've noticed the police have blocked the road. Now I've got all these people that have just bought tickets on me. So my mission is to get them in the rave. So anyway, I've jumped out of the car and I've said to security, right, and I was walking up the road going, pull over, park up. And I was making everyone park on the lane. I was like, get out and follow me. They're like, follow me. So it took me ages to walk all the way along, get them out and wait, come. And then the security, they obviously had to go off now and help their security. So I'm on my own now, right? Remember this now. I'm on my own with all these people I've just sold tickets to, yeah? And it didn't even dawn on me until I went, right, the old bill are trying to stop the rave, everyone this way, and we ran through the field. So as I'm running through this field, it's dawned on me, I got about 10 grand in cash on me, right, in my pockets. And like, I've got all these ravers running after, they're running with me.
Yeah,
They're after me, and I'm like, oh shit, this could go wrong. Somebody could just go, boom, take the money off me, and what can I do about it? My security are gone. Anyway, thankfully it never happened. We went to, I found the office. Obviously, the promoters are stressed because the old bill are trying to shut the rave down. The rave's going off, fucking sick rave, yeah? So what's happened is I've walked in and I've gone, guys, I've got to give you this money. And it was a table, weirdly enough, it's a table like this. And I went, what, they're sitting on the other side. And I'm like, bro, guys, I've got to give you this money. And they're like, no, can you see us in the week? And I'm like, I'm not seeing you in the week. And I just plonked all this money. And they went to me, oh my God, where'd you get all that? I went, I sold all those tickets. And they were like, fucking hell. I remember one of them, he pulled out £1,000 and he handed me the £1,000. And I went, no, I don't want your money. I want a DJ. Right. And then when he said that, no, he said, take the money and your DJ. And I went, cool. So I took the grand, right, put the grand in my pocket. I walked out of there flying high. Yeah. So anyway, back in the day, it didn't really have set times. It was hierarchy. Yeah. So anyway, I'm sitting there now. Now, this is a part of the story that I don't remember, but when I released the book, my cousin and my mate Andy, Bailout, they filled that part in for me, and they went, you never had your records with you that night, and we had to go home to Fulham to get your milk, because I had a milk crate. That's what we carried our records in, was a milk crate. And they said, we went back and got your records on the milk crate. And now I said, no, I don't. And they were a bit, no, that's exactly what happened. That's what happened. I was like, oh my God, that bit I missed out. So anyway, they brought the records back to me because I was sitting there, and I remember, I can't remember who was playing, but Fabio comes in. Now, obviously it's Fabio, isn't it? So like, I've got to I'm sitting waiting to go on. I'm ready to go on. And the place was rammed. I remember it was in a valley type thing, because the ground was like that, and the stage was down looking, so it was just amazing. And next thing, Fabio's coming. Obviously, it's Fabio. It's not even up for debate. It's Fabio. He's got to go on. The next thing you know, Frankie Bones comes in. Right, it's Frankie Bones, he's got to go on. And then next thing you know, it's I think Frankie Valentine coming, because Frankie Valentine got on. Next thing you know, I'm like, right, I'm definitely on next. Steve Jackson comes in. Steve Jackson, Kiss FM, he goes on. So next thing you know, it's getting a bit lighter now, and Steve Jackson turns around. He's like, are you on next? And I went, yeah. And he went, what's your DJ name? And I went, I didn't have one. So I went, Steve. And I never forget, he done this, and he went, coming up next is DJ, and he turned the music because he didn't want another Steve being mentioned because he's Steve Jackson, right?
What a story.
Right. So what happened was, it was at that moment I knew I needed a DJ name. So anyway, I went on, and I'll never forget it. As I was DJing, they started dismantling the stage because it was like light, and so now you had thousands of people in. Now you probably got like just a few thousand. Do you know what I mean? I remember Mickey Finn was in the crowd, and Mickey Finn went to me like this, and I went, I don't know what he was talking about. Basically, the EQ was a bit harsh, so Mickey came up and sorted my EQ out for me while I was mixing. It was that old mixer that had the 2 EQs on it, and he just sorted it out while I was mixing. Fair play, Mick. So anyway, I'm doing my set and that, and and the thing is, I weren't nervous. I was loving it. My first set, I was not nervous at all.
Do you remember what tunes you were playing?
Oh my God, it would have been all like Pump Up the Jam and all that sort of Dion, Come and Get My Lovin', that sort of 89, 88, 89. Of all the musics, that is my absolute favourite era. And I think what I found out is over years, people's favourite music era is the time they found the music. So if I say to someone, what's your favourite era? And they'll go, oh yeah, it's definitely the 94, 95 jungle. And I'm like, when did you find the scene? And they were like, yeah, about 94, 95. And I'm like, that's why. So your favourite era always seems to be the era that,
emotional.
Yeah, that when you found it and you're like, oh my God, this is me. And so basically I played the set, and then obviously I think it went well. I can't really remember much. It was all a bit of a blur. I just remember them dismantling the stage, and I remember Jarvis coming up and doing something with the volumes and that, because I didn't know what I was doing. You know what I mean? I was proper wet fish out of water. But so anyway, I went on the Wednesday. The promoters lived in Fulham, and I went round to Dave's house on the Wednesday, and I was like, everything all right? He's like, no, we got a big, we're in trouble. We got a big court case coming up. And I was like, all right, cool. I said, Dave, can I ask you a favour? And he said, yeah. I said, I don't have a DJ name. Do you mind if I use Phantasy as my name? Because it means something special to me. And he went, if you put DJ in front of it. And he said, I'm fine with it. So that's how DJ Phantasy.
Could you imagine now if you went to a promoter and said, I want to be the DJ name of your event? It would be like, there would be no way.
Can I be DJ Worried About Henry, or being trying to be a All Stars?
DJ Rain Dance.
Yeah, DJ Rain Dance, or whatever. You couldn't. But I definitely have thought to myself, if I didn't have that affiliation to Phantasy, would I have called myself Phantasy? Do you understand what I mean? Because if you think about it, Phantasy is, and there's a funny story. I remember like my link with MCs, I noticed from a very early age how important MCs are to a DJ, but also to this culture. And I remember my Gemini, my old partner, I still see Simon, like I was with him the other day as it goes, but like Gemini, my old, as in Phantasy and Gemini partner, he had a friend called Dave, who we would now know as Dave Reality, but Dave was around. Simon goes to me, oh, Dave's a bit of an MC, and I was on my way to a gig, and I stopped, and I think I had 2 shows that night, and I stopped at Simon's maybe to get a bit of weed or something, and then I said to Dave, do you MC? And he went, yeah. I went, what are you doing tonight? He went, nothing. I went, fancy coming out of me? And he went, yeah. So all the way from Simon's house, Gemini's house, up to the rave, we just talked about what I expected from him, what I wanted. So when there's a breakdown, I need you to get everyone put their hands in the air. I was talking to him, this is what I need you to do. I want you to kind of like, talk to them, like, get them to like make noise back. And then, so I said to him, we need to pick a name for you. And I said, what about if we called you Reality? Because I'm Phantasy. This is how my mind would be working then. And like, if people are on drugs, I'm playing music that takes them into a fantasy world, and he would speak to them and bring them back to reality. Do you know what I mean? So that's why the Phantasy Reality thing come about. And then Dave just ended up becoming like a resident at Laserdrome eventually, and he's part of the history now as well. Do you know what I mean? But it is quite funny, like how my brain was working
in a promotional sense.
So young. Do you know what I mean? Because I remember at the time the only MCs I remember was Chalky White, Rat Pack, Everson Allen. And I don't really remember. No, Hardcore General and them, they all come later. Like, well, for me, they all come later. But, you know, back in that early day, it was like Chalky was there all night. Do you know what I mean? And I remember I always remember this time about Chalky. I love that guy. I was probably about 7,000 people back. So in the back. And I remember he was on the stage and he went, anyone got any RZA? And I, for some reason, when I got him, Chalky, like he could see me like half a mile back, like, you know what I mean? But, you know, like where you just think, oh, he's talking to me, like, you know what I mean? Talking about reality, I remember I was in a rave. I remember one of my all-time favorite records. There's many, but one of them is Soul to Soul, Back to Reality. And I'll tell you why. I was in King's Cross in 1988, and Frankie Valentine played it as the last song of the night. And I walked around to all the ravers going, do you get it? Do you understand what the song means? Like when this song finishes, it's back to life, back to reality. Because it made sense to me. Like, you know,
I'm so happy you're mentioning Frankie Valentine, because me and Fabio we were like childlike teens when we started talking about Frankie and Fabio was talking about Frankie, how people talk about Fabio. And I was just like, wow, he was the first DJ I could mix. I could hear mix better than anyone else.
He was a legend, and he was such a lovely guy, so calming. Like he had an agency from back in the day, and like he actually worked with Sarah, who was Fabio's partner for a while. And but Frankie was just so cool, man. He was just, you know, that he's just a cool guy. Do you know what I mean? You know, like certain people walk into a room. Like I tell you, one person that walks into a room and the energy is just so beautiful. He just, no matter what you're doing, everyone just looks Goldie. Yeah. When he walks into a room, like, he just commands the room without even saying a word. And that's a very special energy. And you can see why someone like Goldie is so successful. He's a larger than life character, and he's just like, you know, I'm lucky enough to know him as Clifford because I've managed to go away with him and do shows. And, you know, there's some infamous videos of me and him in 1992. And I want to make a disclaimer. I was very, very, very stoned back then. And I'll tell you why, because I used to smoke weed. I haven't smoked or touched anything for 25, 26 years now, something like that. It's been a while. But the thing is I thought we had strong like weed here, but I'm telling you, when I went to Canada, mate, it blew my bloody head off. And I remember I done some silly things, like I said some silly things on those videos that one thing I say, I'm like, oh, I'll just cringe it. But it's there. It is, you know, it was what I was at the time. But me and
you leave me hanging and not saying.
Oh no, not definitely not saying it. I know you'll have to research that one. But the good things that happened is there was like me. Do you know I was the first person to ever get in the national newspaper for playing rave music in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I've actually got the cutout still. So what happened is it was a rave. I remember I was in SW1. Do you remember that club in Victoria?
Yeah,
SW1.
yeah, of course.
I was in SW1, and this guy come up to me and he went to me, hey man, my name's Mike Stein. He goes, I run a party in Canada and Toronto. I want to bring you over. And he goes, I don't have much money, but you know, he goes, I'd like to bring you. And I was like, all right, cool. I said, I'll tell you what, I don't want to be paid, but can I bring my MC with me? And he went, yeah. So I thought, I don't want to go there on my own because I don't know anyone. Anyway, it was me, Reality, and then Goldie and Clifford from not Clifford, Goldie. What was the Terminator? The guys that got Roughage Crew. Yeah. Sorry, Roughage Crew. Yeah. So it was Roughage Crew, NRG. Yeah,
you know
NRG. They were there.
Yeah.
And who else was there? Somebody else was there. I'm trying to think, but it was us three was the main acts, and that was when I really got like know Goldie properly. Like we went into radio stations and we took the radio stations over. Like we were actually, it was just fun. And I just remember I laughed the whole time I was there with him. And I remember he called Groove Rider and he went, yeah, Groove. He goes, Fantasy's got the shade. So that was his way of saying he's down. He's down and he's got in game. And I was like, yes, I love that. And funny enough, I was talking of Groove, like, one of the most. Have you had Groove up yet?
I've not had him, but we're talking about him because in January, me and him spoke the other week, and he said he'll come up.
Yeah, he has to, bro. I love that guy so much. Do you know what? He is he's been, I was talking to him yesterday, funny enough. He called me up yesterday and we was chatting for about 45 minutes. Problem is with Groove, we can't talk too much because that call yesterday was the shortest call we've had ever. Yeah. Normally we're 2-3 hours deep when we have a call. So yesterday we did a 45-minute one. And I was telling him yesterday, I think I might have said to him, I'm coming up here. And I said to him, Groove, do you know what? When I used to go Land of Oz, and I was talking about his good energy, he's always been the same. One thing about that guy, he's always maintained the same. He's always been the same guy. And I remember I used to go to Rage. Now, obviously, I'd be like, all right, Groove. Now, I never used to bother. I wasn't one of these pesty guys. Oh, Groove. I'd be like, all right, Groove. And let's keep it moving, and just have a little chat. And I remember one time I was walking through Rage and I was smiling because it still brings joy to me. And he turned around to me one day and he went, all right, Steve. And I remember thinking, he knows my name. I couldn't believe he knew I knew he knew that I was Fantasy. But I couldn't believe because I never said to him, my name's Steve. I was like, I'm Fantasy. And I could not believe that he knew my name, that he actually took the time to find out what my name was and actually call me by my name. And there's something very personal about that. When you call someone by their name, it's kind of like, they say when you meet someone, if you remember their name or something about their family and that, it endears them to you a bit more. But I will never forget that. And I was talking to him about it yesterday. I was going, bro, you don't understand. I was 18 years old. I'm just chatting with Groove Rider, Groove was the godfather of drum and bass is what we call him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was just like, all right, Steve. And I was like, all right, Groove. And I didn't get to know his real name for years after. I don't know it now, obviously, but but the thing is he's Ibig, definitely a good one to get.
Do you know what I love about you? Is I knew you was going to go into bigging everyone up.
Yeah, no, of course.
Because it's you, isn't it? That's the thing with you. You just big everyone up and
you know what?
Lift everyone up and rightly so because they've inspired you.
Yeah, of course, man. You know what the thing is? Everybody, I said this to you before we come in. Everybody in this business is. I look at I'm a piece of a jigsaw puzzle. Bunter, you're a piece of a jigsaw puzzle. Slipmat is, Rat Pack, Groove Rider, Fabio, Frankie Valentine. Let's go back even further, Frankie Bones. I don't know what happened to Frankie. He was sick. I remember that guy DJing, it blew my head. But I don't know what happened. He might have gone down another genre. I don't know. But all of these people were kind of part of this big massive jigsaw puzzle, and everyone has their own story. Do you understand what I mean? And this is when I wrote my book. One of the things I opened up with was this is my story and this is how I see things, because me and you could go and watch a football game tomorrow and we watch the same game live and we'll see it completely different, because everyone that's how people see. People will watch this interview. Some people will get different things out of it than others. Do you understand what I mean? And I just think everybody, no matter how big you are, how small you are, has contributed some way to this business being what it is.
100%.
And I think that needs to be valued. And if you don't mind me talking about why I started the Flower series, is after Skibber passed away, God rest his soul. I miss him so much, because Skibber was the guy that, I'd like to think I'm a good businessman and I have good ideas, but what it is, sometimes you need to bounce your ideas off of someone. And Skibber was my guy. I'd phone him and I'd go, bro, I've got this idea. And he'd be like, nah. Or he'd be like, yeah, go, that's good. And I'm like, are you in? He's like, I'm in. Do you know what I mean? And he would give you that kind of, oh, well, if he thinks it's good, it must be all right. Do you understand what I mean? And I never forget, the thing is when he sadly passed, I didn't realize I didn't realize till maybe nearly a year later how depressed I was over it. Do you understand what I mean? Because you just sort of, I don't want to get emotional, but you sort of just get on with things. Do you understand what I mean? And you try to get by. And then what happened is, on top of Skibber passing, my father-in-law, who I was very close to, he passed away. So it was just bang, bang, one after the other. And don't forget, before that, we'd lost Stormin as well. God rest his soul. He's another big, beautiful ball of energy. That guy was, and one of he was a fighter, man. I've got so much admiration for that guy. And so what's happened, you've had these things that have happened, but what I noticed is I never forget it, and I hope you don't mind me saying, you can edit this bit out if you don't want to.
Steve, this is important stuff.
But I remember I played at Fabric, and it was sick. I remember Sam Supplier coming into me going, "Bro, I've never seen this room this busy, like this early." He goes like, and I was like, "Oh, nice." He played it every week at this place, or every month it was on. I didn't. He just said, "I've never seen it this round before." Like, big up. He was coming on after me, yeah, because it was a multi-genre room and that. And so anyway, I got home and I never forget it. I was sitting there, and I was feeling really down. Now, you know yourself, when you play a wicked set and you have because to me, DJing is like taking drugs. Yeah, like what it is some people will take a pill or smoke a spliff to get a high. I play music.
It's our lifeline.
That's it. So what it is like my missus goes to me now, she's got a running joke. She's like, "Is that your fix for the week?" When I come in from the set, I'm like, "Yep." So that's my fix for the week. So what it is I was sitting there, and I remember I was sitting in the kitchen and I was eating just toast, and I just felt down, and I'm like, this isn't right. Like, why am I feeling down after I've had a wicked set? Like, the night's been amazing. Like, I'm home, you know, safe, everything's cool. I've got nothing to, what have I got to be annoyed about or sad about? And then weirdly enough, I was looking at my thing, Andrew Tate popped up on my timeline. Now I'd never followed this geezer, and I still don't follow him, yeah, but all I'd heard about him was negative stuff, like he's this, he's that. And so when you hear this about someone, you just go, "Oh, he must be that." Yeah. Anyway, the video said, he was in the video and he's like, if you're sad and depressed about the way things are, then stop moaning about it and get up and sort it out and fix it. And like, it was a real positive. In other words, like, sort yourself out, like a kind of a virtual slap in the face. And I remember sitting there, it was like 3 a.m, and I went, I was like, what? Why is that popped? I don't follow this geezer. Why has that popped up on my phone line? So what I did is I thought, let me click him. So I clicked him and I watched another few videos, and they were all, I found them quite inspirational. They were like, kind of, you know, things are not going your way. Do something about it. Don't sit there moping about it, because no one's going to come to your rescue. And I remember thinking like, wow, it's a little bit of a, like, wow, I do. And that's when I kind of realized, oh my God, like I'm so sad about what's happened to Skibbs and then my father-in-law as well, that it's stopping me from doing anything. I was literally walking around, like, people are calling me, you know, I'm on the phone. Yeah, what are you saying? I was not answering the phone and didn't want to talk to anyone. And I was like in that real sort of like negative spiral. And the problem is, when you get into one of them, is they're hard to get out of, man. You just keep going down and down. And then what it is I'm looking online, and I don't, like, you got to remember, like, Skibbity, for me, and I hope for you guys, was one of the biggest, like, icons that our music has probably ever produced.
1,000,000%,
right?
Mate. 1,000,000,000,000,000,000%.
So when I'm looking on the timeline and I'm like, I'm still like so sad about what's happened to my friend. He was only like 47 years old, right? And I'm so sad about what's happened to my friend. Like, and I'm just seeing everyone just getting on with life. Now, I understand life goes on. I do understand life goes on, and you can't sit there, you know, we can't have, you know, you can't just constantly, that's why I don't really post about many things, because, like, you know, you kind of want to post the good things, but, you know, I don't want to sit there going, I'm still so sad about it, because I don't want it to be like, oh, you're right, fancy, you know, like a pylon, like, oh, I'm just looking for likes and things, because that's
not you.
It doesn't mean anything, you know, that doesn't mean anything. But what happened was I just remember thinking, like, this guy is such an icon, and not just an icon. Anybody that met him fell in love with the geezer.
Inspiring,
bro.
Very inspiring guy.
And
inspirational, mate.
Exactly. And suddenly, I don't really see many people talking about him, and I started questioning, what's it all about? What is it all about? Like, you've got this guy that done more for the music, like, in terms of representing. Because remember one thing about Skibbity, you didn't have to just like jungle, drum and bass to know about Skibbity. Just people just knew about Skibbity. And I know that myself because I was going all over the world with him. I remember going to places like Mallorca and all them Greek islands like Zante and all that. And people used to think I was his security guard. And they'd be like going, oh, can we get a photo? And giving me the thing. And obviously I'd take it, you know. And they'd be like, oh, can you tell your security? Like, and he'd be like, no, that's Phantasy. And they'd be like, oh my God, sorry, Phantasy, I didn't realise it was you. But it doesn't matter what walk of life, everyone knew Skibber. Hardly anyone knew me, but he would make sure, you know, he was always very like, no, that's Phantasy. And I loved that about him. He had such a good energy, you know what I mean? And I'm sitting, and this is the reason why I kind of started this flowers thing, because when he passed away, the outpouring of love and emotion for him. I mean, I was in tears reading some of the things people were saying, like how he inspired them, and you know, it was beautiful, but at the same time, it was so sad that that we're in this crap situation. Do you know what I mean? And I just thought, do you know what? I need to do something while people are alive and show them like how much we value them now, because
it's important. Listen, this is why I do this.
Yeah.
This is why I do this, because we are getting older.
Mm-hmm.
We have met so many people. We have walked in so many different circles of life, and we have had so many endearing, inspiring, groundbreaking, cult-like people who have broke down barriers with their talent, right? And we're losing them. And we've known them personally as amazing friends and family members, or their peers who we've gone, wow, what that person did. I didn't know that person, but what they did has been with me forever, and we're losing people. And like you with your flowers, what you do is the same that I do with this.
Yeah.
I want to celebrate the people who I was so inspired by and continue to be inspired by. And it's the same reason why, like, so many people why I love you talking about 88, 89 and talking about Frankie Valentine and people. There is legends who are legends to us.
Yeah, of course.
And I completely get why you're the way you are. And you've always been this guy who I can look at you. I look at you, right? I look at you, Groove, Kenny, Fabio, right?
Did I forget Kenny?
I Rat Pack, LSD. I don't look at any one of you as big as the next person, right? I look at you all as like my heroes, my people who inspired me. But you're a guy like your Phantasy. For me, you are there with all of them, but also you're this guy who's always been behind the scenes, like lifting, like every one of your friends will know that you have lifted up people and been a visionary for other people's careers.
Because like I'm a great believer in that, for this scene to survive, we need to find a new generation of people. And like, I've often said this to people, like, the building we're sitting in now, if it didn't have foundations, what would happen? The building would collapse. So you need to keep the foundations, and this is the music as well. As soon as the music loses its foundation and it's, then it will carry on, but it will never be the same. Do you understand what I mean? Because that's why I think, one of the things that I've always tried to do when I've curated lineups for whether it's for my own shows or for other shows, is always make sure there's a representation, whether it be a Brocky or a Groove Rider or a Brian G. Like, I've always tried to make sure that there's, if not all of them, obviously, and Nicky Black Market is like my brother, but I've always tried to make sure there's, if not all of them, some of them there, along with the new, like, even when we were doing the SAS tours, I'd be like, right, I need, I want some of them in there as well, because it's very important for, like when SASASAS was like, smashing it, that's brilliant because we're doing what's current right now, but we still need to showcase the other stuff as well, like what, where we came from. Do you understand what I mean? And I think that's very important. And I'm all about, like trying to like work with people and you know, the thing is there's I used to I don't know if I have it on my Twitter now, but I used to have a thing like involved in more things than you may realize was my thing, because like I like working in the background and curating projects and like trying to put things together that give people a platform. Because remember this, I always said to my boy Coatsy, big up Coatsy, because like, that's my brother, I love him to bits. Yeah, I said to him, bro, I can put you on 1 till 2 at every one of my raves, and I know you will fuck the place up. You will smash the place to pieces. But if the ravers ain't talking about you the next day, it doesn't matter. They've got to be coming back going, oh, the Coatsy was sick, because that's what's going to change everything. That's what will make other people go, oh, I want Coatsy 1 till 2. And like, you know, so it's like, you know, that old saying, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make
you need a horse to water.
Well, you can.
I use that one.
Yeah. And you can open the door, but you can't make someone walk through it,
Yeah.
you know. And I believe, you know, and I believe in that, you know, what we can do is present opportunities to people, and then it's up to them to capitalize and go through. And some people have gone, whew, like,
Yeah.
you know, escalated, which is great. I love seeing that. I remember Mackie, I just knew when I met Mackie, like, I loved that guy. It's like my brother, man. And I remember when I first come across Mackie, I remember it was on a train going to Belgium. And I didn't even know who he was. I just knew about Mackie G. So there was 4 of us on this table, 4 on the other table. And I went, which one of you lot's Mackie G? And he just literally put his hand up like that. Very shy guy. He put his hand up, and I was like, Mackie, I've heard a lot about you, man. I said, we go up in the carriage and have a cup of tea and have a little chat. So I took him to the, you know, the buffet car, whatever they call it. We went up there. I was chatting to him the whole way there, and I was like, bro, like I see this thing, you know, I see you're doing bits, bruv. Do you know what I mean? And like, he was probably like, who the bloody hell? He knew who I was, but where's he come from, like, type thing, you know what I mean? Anyway, we just bonded. Bam, next thing you know, like when SASAS like came about, like when I went to Skibbs and I said, I got an idea to do this group thing. It wasn't a group thing. It was a one-off set. We needed something special for the last ever area. And I said, look, what if we get you, Shabba, Shotter and Storming together, and I'll get a couple of DJs, and we'll just, you know, I'll get a logo made up with SAS. And so it was just a one-off, but it went off so much that it turned into a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is, to me, that is natural energy exploding. That was not forced. That took its own.
You can't beat organicness in music. Anything that's forced. Right. We're going to go back. We've got to go. Because I think we need to go back for people to understand how you understand creating new things in the modern day, because you yourself was a creator of your own music, your productions, your DJing. So tell me the trajectory from your first gig, you say, I've got this date of being DJ Phantasy from 89, then all of a sudden, like you say, you're mates with Carl Cox, your trajectory of all of a sudden you're playing every weekend, you're going around the country, and then your first lot of music that you made. Because I think we get an understanding of that, we then understand why you're so good at what you do behind the scenes and in front of the scenes as a DJ.
I think the first and foremost thing was I didn't do it for the money. I did it for the love. So that's the first thing, because I didn't even realize you could make money out of it. As I say, I just wanted to be involved. So that was the main thing. And then so what it is like when I got my decks and I started practicing and I had the links with doing the flyers and the tickets, so I utilized that links to play. I didn't get no money. And then I remember, weirdly enough, we've got a show coming up, The History of Jungle, which is on the 14th of March, 2026. I've got to give a plug. It's at Outernet. It's going to be sick.
Great venue.
We nearly sold it out.
Great
already.
venue.
It's nearly sold out already. But anyway, I was down there the other day with my youngest daughter, who does a bit of social media for me, and I was like saying, we were filming like some clips. I think one of them dropped today actually. But anyway, like I was basically telling her, I said, you see that across the road, it's Uniqlo now. You know that shop, Uniqlo. By the way, their clothes are really good.
Right.
I'm not joking with you. They are
Promoting clothing and your gig.
Yeah, no, but they are. They're really like. Anyway, I discovered them in Japan. It's a Japanese brand. I didn't know that, but anyway, I said, see where that Uniqlo is in Tottenham Court Road. I goes, there used to be a club there called Busby's, and I DJ'd in there it was in '89, and I remember it might have been even 1990, and it would have been 1990, yeah. And I remember the promoter Carl from Crazy Club gave me £30 for DJing. I didn't expect it. Do you know what I did? I got a taxi home. I was so buzzing. I got a taxi home, and the taxi back then that would be like £8.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Not now. You're about £100 for a bloody taxi. Like, but the thing is, you know, as I say, I didn't do it for the money. I did it to be involved. I just wanted to be involved. Like, I loved the culture. I loved the people. I loved everything. I loved the music. I was like so engulfed in the music and everything. There was no, even like, we used to wear, do you remember we used to wear like, well, I didn't wear naff, but people wore naff. And then we wore tracksuit and kickers, right? So
Wallabies.
Yeah. So
Benetton tops.
Yeah, Benetton, right. That's what I was saying. I was a kickers guy and Chevinon. I used to Chevinon. So I was a kickers guy and Chevinon, and that was me and my little tracksuit bottoms and that. And it was a culture. Now, there is something I want to say while it's in my head, because I will forget it. Someone said to me recently, when we were younger, you could look at somebody and you would know, in the 80s, you would know if they were into rave, if they were into punk, if they were into like hip hop, if they were a mod, if they were a casual. You could look at them and know what they're into. So you'd walk along the road and you see someone wearing kickers and a tracksuit, and you'd like,
you'd know they were a
raver, right? You see a goth, you knew they were a goth. Yeah. Now we all dress the same. So you can't tell what people are into. I dress the same as the ravers. The ravers dress the same as me. But the thing is I could go, like last night, I told you I was Jimmy Carr. They're all dressed the same as me. So the thing is back then the culture was not just the music, not just the raves, not just the drugs, it was everything. It was the clothing. It was the way you carried yourself, your hair. I mean, he cracked a joke last night about people with ponytails. And my missus laughed extra loud that time because I used to have a ponytail.
Everyone, so many people had ponytails, didn't they?
But listen, if you had a ponytail, you knew you were a raver. Yeah, because not, you know, I mean, rockers would probably have long hair, but they wouldn't wear it in a ponytail. It'd all be down like that. But what I'm trying to say is like there was a way that you looked. Do you know what I mean? So I had to mention that because I think people these days forget about that, how we used to dress. Do you remember later on when people used to have the MA2 or MA1?
Yeah, because that was the next phase, wasn't it?
There you go.
After.
That's what I'm saying.
So going up, tell me how it went from doing like the Crazy Club, the warming up at Sunrise Fancy, how then you started going all over the UK because earlier you touched on the different styles of hardcore in that 1991 period of the early hardcore, the breakbeat, how you ended up and down the country.
What I think happened was I remember going into Frankie Valentine's the agency office. It might have been about 1990, you know, the timeline can be a little bit skewed because it was so long ago. And I remember in there was this music playing on a cassette deck. And I was like, who's this? And there's this kid in the corner called Madness, who you would now know as Potential Bad Boy.
Yeah.
But he used to be called Madness. Wow. Right?
Oh, my mind is blown. Right. I thought I had the inside track on his first ever tune, Autoload, right? But you have just tell me more. Come on, Steve.
So what happened was, I said, Frankie, who's this? And it was like the tunes were banging, bro. Like I'm talking about what? And it's him and Madness. Potential's quite lovely guy, just so chilled, isn't he? He's like chill. Next thing you know, I said to him, like, bro, these tunes are sick, man. I said, like, wait, where are you making? We went, my studio. And I was like, I want to make music. Like, can I book your studio? And he was like, well, yeah. And I said, how much? He went, £80 for the day. And I was like, sweet. I said, look, all right, cool. He said, like, here's my address. And if you look on my first release, Jetbron, it's got recorded at, because we did it as a stamp, recorded at N8 Studios, which weirdly enough, I passed on the way here. Right. So today, and that was in his house, N8 Studios. right?
So Chris engineered and made. What?
Yeah. So what
What
happened?
was he?
Oh God, I have no clue. But anyway, I turned up.
This is. Can I say something? Right, I've had so many people in this chair, right, and a whole bag of people may agree or disagree, but this is the best bit of unknown information that I've had on a rave story, and we've recorded over 60, 70 hours worth of conversation.
Crazy.
I have got goosebumps knowing. Potential.
Bro.
I never
That
knew.
guy is one clever, like the studio wise clever. So I turned up to his house, and we went in his where I don't know, his living room or whatever. So I goes to him, look, I've never done this before. I have no clue. And he said, well, what do you want? And I said, look, I kind of into a bit more the breakbeat sort of side of things. So he was like, right, well, look, here's a drum kit. And I was going, toot, boom, boom, tip, boom, you know, didn't know what I was doing. I was just like kind of getting a feel for it. And then he was like, right, because he could probably, maybe, I don't know what was in his head because I've never actually spoken to him about it, but he might have been getting a bit frustrated with me just going, do. So he went, right, shall I start putting some stuff in for you? I went, yeah, cool. So he went, dum. So the kick, right? The next thing you know, and he's doing all these things, and I was like, yeah, that's sick. And then I brought some vinyl with me to like, oh look, I want something like this and something like that. So what it was is I was like, oh, I like the bass like this. And so what it is he basically helped me produce it. I was giving him the ideas, but he was doing the work really, you know what I mean? This is what I believe I was paying him for. So anyway, we made this tune. I didn't know what to call it, and I decided to call it Jepron because Jepron was the name of my father's building firm. I didn't have a name, right? So what I did is I went to my dad again. Remember, my dad had lent me £1,000 for the decks. So I went to him and I was like, Dad, I need to borrow £1,000. Oh, for fuck's sake, you fucking borrow, fucking, you know, like my dad, I knew I'd get it, but he'd make me suffer for it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, they don't want to make things too easy for you. I said, Dad, I promise you, I will give you the £1,000 back. And he's like, but don't you owe me £1,000 from before? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to sort that out. I'm going to sort it out. Anyway, so what happened then, I took the £1,000, I printed the record. I printed 1,000 Jeprons, right? So I went down to distribution, and I believe this is what helped me
get
on the bookings, yeah? So I did 1,000. Next thing you know, about, I don't know, maybe a week later, the distributor called me back and went, yeah, we sold all them records out. Can we get more? And I was like, oh, okay. So I went, well, I need the money first. So what they did is I went there because I was selling them for £2. Yeah, it cost me £1 to make, and I sold them for £2. So what happened was I got £2,000 back. So I got the £2,000 and I thought, right, shall I give my dad back his £1,000? Then I've still got £1,000. I thought, no, he can wait. So I went into the studio. We went to a studio in Brixton. Actually, before I was, we went to a studio in Brixton. There's a guy, I can't remember the guy's name, and we created like an EP. Me and Gemini created an EP, and what I did was I took that £1,000 and the £2,000, and I made 2 records. So I printed 1,000 of each, which cost £2,000. I took them to the distribution. They sold them all. They gave me back £4,000. So I'm like, brilliant. So I've got £4,000 now. What did I do? I went and made 4 records. And I printed them, and then I pressed them. I got £8,000 back. Yeah. And this is how it went. Boom, 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 boom. So next thing you know, I'm flooding the market. I mean, I listened back to some of the tunes and thought, man, that weed was strong. Because in the studio, I was like, man, this is sick. But when I listen back now, I'm like,
what other stuff did you make with Potential?
I know, only that. That was it. No, but what it was, because what it is, he kind of introduced me. It was just happened that I was at Frankie Valentine's office, and I was just like, oh, I'd never been into a studio before. So this was the thing. But then what I did is from that, I tell you what it was. The distribution company was called Big Buzz, right? I don't even know where they are now, whatever, Big Buzz. And then they said to me, I said, oh, I need to make more music. And they went, why don't you use our studio? So I made 2 tracks, and I brought Simon Gemini with me, and we released them on their label. I don't think I ever been paid for that, But anyway, whatever. You know, the old things. But the thing is we released that, and then the money I got, I went and I printed to, and then I found like another studio. I went into their studio, and then I took music and released it myself. Yeah, and they were my distro at the time, so they were happy because they were making money off of my sales.